Ace of Base. I saw the sign.
Or how long?
Or how long?
1974.
1974. Before I was born.
I doubt that.
I was born in...
Anyways.
Hey, welcome to the Chaffin Church podcast. My name is Marty Holden, and I'm here with my good friend Al Dancy.
Yes.
What's up, Al?
Hey, how are you?
Doing fantastic.
Awesome.
And today I wanted to just connect with Al, and we talked about last week I talked with Sean Leary, and there are the police in Holden ready to make it happen.
Us.
We hope.
I can tell you that right now.
You never know.
Unless they know what we're going to be talking about tonight.
They're headed towards Holden Street, and there you have it.
Which is near Worcester.
Yeah,
Maybe
so they're headed that way. Maybe they're going after my mother-in-law, Angela Rogers.
Could be. I would.
So I wanted to just have a conversation with Al, kind of talk about all the things we've been through, and one of the reasons is because I wanted to be more community focused, right? And Al has been ministering in this area, and specifically in North Worcester, and also in Holden for really...
Almost 14 years.
14 years. Are you counting 1999 to 2001?
I'm not. I didn't.
So that's another 3 years.
Yeah. So like 17 years.
17 years out of the last 22 years.
Yeah.
22 or 23 years.
Yeah.
And so...
It's crazy when you
anyways,
break it down.
Right? I mean, there has been not really a person that I've talked to more than you, other than my wife, in those times. I mean, there are times I talk per day or whatever, but in that stretch of time, I don't know that there's a person I've talked to more. With the exception of probably not even my dad.
Yep.
Even though I talk to my dad, every couple days.
I'm with you. The opposite, though. My mom.
Yeah.
I talk to my mom.
I mean,
every day, every other day.
I get it. You want to kind of bust on your dad right now? Let's just kind of talk about Tom.
I wish that he loved me.
Oh man. So anyway, we worked together from '99 to 2001.
Yep.
And then you went to Springfield, got away from God's will, and during that time.
Yep. Ran away from God.
Anyway.
to go back home.
Back home, and then you came here in 2001 or 2007.
Yeah.
So let's go.
September 2007.
September 2007, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
We met up that summer.
Right.
Just before you became the pastor at Fellowship.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh hey, maybe you could come out every other week and do some music.
Yeah.
And that's where that started.
So let's talk about when we met. Do you remember the first day we met? Because I do.
I do, and I don't remember it. No offense, I don't remember it because I remember meeting you. I just remember what happened. But you tell the story way better. So
I'll tell the story, and then we had a mutual friend named Ruben.
Yes. Yep.
And Ruben was one of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the reasons that I came to Massachusetts. And I came here and he came here. I was trying to get away from stuff in my past life. Yep. I was a bank robber. And that's...
Robbing the ladies.
Robbing the ladies. Oh, man. Did you say that? And did I just... Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
And
I don't even know now.
And so Ruben started going to school at a small school called Baptist Bible College East.
College East. That's what it was at the time.
And now it's called Boston Baptist. Does it still exist?
Yeah.
You still have a college there? You're still an alumni?
I'm an alumni.
All right.
Yes. Now it's called Boston Baptist College.
Okay.
Yeah.
They put out some great pastors and ministers to the gospel. And
they really have.
Good people. And so Ruben was like, hey, why don't you come up and hang out?
Right.
Because we had spent the better part of the summer, July into August, and we were just hanging out and just doing our thing in Webster. We'd go to Friendly's in Webster.
Right. Steal the Coke cups.
Steal the Coke cups, the Coke glasses, yeah.
I don't know if some people may not remember this, but Friendly's, so you may not even remember Friendly's.
Yeah.
But Friendly's used to have these bubble glasses.
Yeah.
Right? And they were actually made of glass.
Yeah.
And some people, not naming names, would like to take them home.
So up until like 2 years ago, I might still have them at my house. I had one.
Wow.
And I kept it because it's a nice glass, and I like
Right.
kind of on the bigger side.
And it's the nostalgia.
Nostalgia, right?
Sorry,
And
I cut you off. Go
so Ruben invited me. I went to
BBC East.
BBC East.
Yep.
And met a whole group of guys. They're all hanging in a dorm room. One room.
Right.
And all of a sudden, out of the blue, this is like August 28th, 1998.
Yep.
All of a sudden, you hear.
Yep. But it wasn't. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
There,
Yeah.
yeah. And this skinny guy comes in with a towel and throws it on whose ever bed it was.
I don't even know who's. Maybe Nappies. No, I don't think he was there.
I think it was the guy's bed, the next
Yeah.
guy's bed. I think,
Okay.
or was it your room? No, because
No,
he
it
was your
wasn't
roommate.
mine.
So maybe it was
Yeah,
Chris.
my
It was
room was all the way at the end of the hall where he came from.
okay. All right.
Yeah.
It was Chris White's bed.
Yes.
He throws it on his own bed, and starts laughing and tells people, "This is Chuckles." And all of a sudden, boom, boom,
Right.
boom, 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 and this monstrous 400-pound dude walks in. He's not very tall.
I don't think he was 400.
Oh, he definitely was 400.
He was heavy.
Okay, I mean, and he is like totally naked
Yeah.
and totally sopping wet.
Right.
First time I'm
Right.
ever on this campus, he runs in.
And what was it? It was a Bible college?
It was a Bible college, and he jumps on this guy on the bed.
Oh, yeah.
It starts rolling around this guy's bed. I
Right.
think. I don't think the guy was on the bed.
You know what he did was he told him, he's like, give me my towel. If you don't give me my towel, I'm going to roll all over your bed.
Oh, okay,
He's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
You won't do that. And in 1998, telling someone, it's probably still the same for some of us guys.
Yeah.
But you tell someone at that point, we're all jacked up on testosterone, you won't do it. That's like
Yeah.
in what was it, Christmas Story?
Yeah.
I
I
double
double
dog
dog.
dare you.
I triple
That was
dog,
the-
yeah.
That was the triple dog dare of 1998.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you won't.
And that was the first day I met you.
Yeah.
And met a whole bunch of guys who I would hang out with over the next couple years or
Yeah.
whatever.
7 years.
Sam, 7 years of your schooling.
Hey, some people go to school for 7 years.
You crammed 4 years into 7.
Right.
It was great.
Right, right.
And then we hung out a little bit every weekend or so,
Right.
or every other
Right.
weekend. We kind of got to know the same people. And then you started going to church here in Holden.
Yep.
So you would come every week as a college
Every
student.
Wednesday,
Every Wednesday.
and then we would come out usually on Saturday night,
Okay.
sleep over at the pastor's house or somewhere on the
On
floor
the
of
property.
the church.
Yeah.
And we'd stay Sunday, have lunch,
Yeah.
Sunday night church when that was a thing, and then we would all drive back to Boston.
And how many kids were that?
When it first started, it probably was like 3 or 4, maybe 5 of us.
Okay.
And then it quickly grew that there was probably a crew of like 10 of us.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yep. Brad Jones. I don't know if you remember.
I
him.
remember Brad, yeah.
Lachelle.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just trying to think. I mean, Brian Howe. I mean, Chris. He came
I
for a
totally
while.
forgot. Yeah.
Dave Howe.
Yeah.
Nappy came here and
Wow,
there.
yeah.
I mean, there were all kinds of people that I would say at some point there probably were like 15 students who were coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if you remember this. Making we'd run to the grocery store, Stop and Shop. I think was what was closest for all of us.
Yeah.
And we would run there, grab what are the little microwavable pizzas?
Yeah.
I can't think of the Mama. I can't remember, or it begins with a C. Anyways, it doesn't matter. We would buy little pizzas. They were $1.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, the other week I was at the store and I looked and saw them. I was like, they're still 99 cents.
Wow.
Yeah, or maybe they were $1.05.
Elios or something? Elos?
It wasn't that. It was
something
just
different.
the little,
A circle kind.
yeah, the little circle pizzas that have like the metal
Yeah. Oh yeah.
circle underneath it. That and mac and cheese. That was usually what we bought and made in the little kitchenette.
And the first time I was on the property, I don't think Ruben wanted me to come and hang out, and I didn't know that he was thinking of coming to church there.
Yep.
Here in Holden. We went to church in Webster, and I was on staff there. And the first time I was on the property was May 1st, 2001. So this is, I'm
No,
sorry,
not 2000.
99.
Okay.
99.
Yeah.
Sorry. 99. So it was a year, it was not quite, almost a year later.
Maybe 8 months or so.
Yeah.
Right.
And I remember the pastor had asked you to mow the lawn before he got back. And he was getting back that day.
Yeah.
And you were like, oh crap. And you got out the mower and the mower was broke. The riding mower was broke. And so you started pushing. And it was about this tall. It was tall.
It was easily 24 inches tall.
And this is
tall.
acres.
Yeah.
Acres.
Yeah.
And you got on the push mower.
It was probably the field that I would have had to cut was probably 2 acres.
Yes.
Right?
At least.
Yeah. And I remember, I don't know if you remember this, I remember I started at one, I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go all the way around, and then I'm going to, I'm just going to do the perimeter until finally I get to the middle, and then it'll be easy. No.
And you got feet. I mean, maybe yards.
Yeah.
Maybe yards.
There was one point where I got all the way around and came back.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Only one time.
I remember sitting in the middle of the parking lot. It was a beautiful day. I don't know why I remember this. And just watching. And I was with someone. I don't know if it was.
I don't remember who, but yeah.
I think Ruben and LeBlanc. I can't remember her name, but we were sitting there in the middle of the parking lot and just watching. And I'm thinking, he's never going to finish that. And you didn't.
And I didn't.
Did you get in trouble for that?
I don't even remember.
You don't remember?
I probably got yelled at.
Yeah?
Probably.
Right.
Like, come on, Al, I asked you to do this. And then I explained it. I was just like, but, you know.
Well, the lawnmower broke. There's nothing you could have done anyway.
Which, over the last, 14 years, well, not 14, but,
Yeah.
it still broke. It was always broken.
It's always broken. And then Jim and Pam were the pastors there. Jim Pepper.
Yep.
Pam Pepper, now Watson. And that was crazy, right?
Yeah.
I mean.
It was honestly, it was a crazy time.
Yeah.
I learned a lot about serving God during that time. I learned a lot about myself, like who I was, what I was capable of, good and bad.
I mean, coming, yeah. I mean, but
Like,
you drove out an hour
and
plus.
15 minutes, hour and a half,
Yeah.
almost an hour and a half sometimes.
Yeah, to church.
In fact, I'll tell you a story after, but yeah. Literally it would be, like I said, every Wednesday, every weekend, and then drive back on Sunday night.
It was cool, though, how we saw during that time such phenomenal growth.
Yeah.
In such a short amount of time. I don't know what it was like. It was probably even fewer people when you started there.
Yeah.
By the time I got there, there was 20, 25, 30.
Yeah, there was probably about like 8, maybe 10 people.
Oh, my word.
And then we show up and it doubled.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, then in 2001, there were a couple hundred.
Yep.
And our pastor had an affair. I mean, how crazy was that? Like,
Yeah.
I don't remember. I don't think we were quite so close, but maybe we were during that time.
I mean, like, close in that we hung out.
Yes.
But not close in talking about life.
Okay.
Besides the obvious at that point when you're 20 years old, 18 years old, girls.
Right. So we talked about dating and whatnot.
Yeah, sure. That's a nice way to say it.
That's what I'm going to say.
That's an appropriate way of. No, I'm just kidding. I'm trying to talk to girls and figure out
life.
Figure out life, who we are, and But yeah, the church itself, it was crazy up until that point to see it go from practically nothing to a couple hundred people was.
It's an exciting
incredible.
thing.
Oh, so exciting. Yeah. Yeah.
Man.
And it was devastating when it happened. So my wife, Erica, at the time, my girlfriend,
Yeah.
that's what made us decide to leave.
Really?
Yeah, I had started going back to my home church in Springfield area.
From Boston. So
from
you went
Boston.
even farther.
So I would drive so when I first started at school, I literally would get a ride every week from Dave Feldot.
Yeah.
We would leave, I think we would leave Friday. If not, we would leave Saturday. We would drive back. I'd bring my laundry with me, do my laundry there, pop it back in the bag, go to church, go to Sunday night church.
At home, in Springfield.
Home in Springfield.
Okay.
So
All
this
right.
is in 97.
Yeah.
And then go all the way back.
Wow.
And then eventually, when I had my own car, I was still doing the same thing. And then got connected with Jim Pepper, started coming here to Holden.
Yeah.
And it was incredible to see the growth, but it was devastating. It really was. It was one of those things, and I don't know if I've ever said this to you. So Erica and I, over the years, dating, leaving there to go back to Western Mass, Springfield, East Longmeadow area.
Yeah.
We still talked about here because, of course, we were going to school with a bunch of students who were still going to to the church. And so, and we had friends who were still serving at the church. And so for us, it was like, we had talked about this concept that Wachusett Valley Baptist at the time,
Yeah.
it filled this not void, but this need in us for community, right? Because that was a huge thing.
Right.
Like, even when it was small, you had people like Steve and Terry McNeil, who would have 6 of us. They weren't rich. They lived in a 2-bedroom apartment.
Yes.
Right? Like not even a first floor, I think, was it? Or was it a basement apartment? You walked down into their apartment.
I think so. Yeah.
Like, so a 2-bedroom basement apartment.
Yeah.
With their young daughter. They would let us sleep over at their house. They would feed us.
Yeah.
And so what it did was it built in us this concept, this mindset of community.
Yeah.
And when Jim had the affair and we had to make that hard choice of leaving, it was like community got ripped away from us. But what we had talked about often was there really were only 2 places that we ever, and this is big for Erica, that we ever felt like was home. Here at Holden at Wachusett, which became Fellowship, which became NLC, whatever, you know.
We'll talk about that. Yeah.
But there in my home church. But for Erica, she grew up in a really small church. Her mom would go to this church and stay there for a while, and then go to another small church.
Yep.
And it was always far away.
Okay.
But she was never able to build like roots and build community in it because, you know, you're a kid and it's far away versus we're in college, capable of driving ourselves wherever we want to go.
Yeah.
We can build community and be someplace. Anyways, I don't mean to ramble, but when you finally reached out to us to say, hey, would you pray about coming out and helping with the church?
Yeah.
One of the biggest things for us, one of the biggest answers, I guess, to our prayers, I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but one of the things that we were reminded of was how much community there was here. And we came out to a link. That's what it was.
Yes.
We came to a link, which it was super awesome idea.
Yeah. So Link was a kind of an environment that was specifically catered to build community. So we did comedy shows, we did murder mysteries, game nights, and they're usually big, like costume nights or something like that.
Big, all fully themed.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Well, and that was it. You invited us out. You're like, hey, come on out to this, and we were like, oh, all right, we'll go check it out. And it was like nothing changed. And I don't mean like it looked completely different,
right?
But the environment was the same. And Steve and Terry were there.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So we see familiar faces.
Yeah.
And being welcomed back in, you know, for us was just like, all right, we're home, and so it felt that way back with Jim. It felt that way as soon as we came back into it.
Yeah.
It felt that way all throughout the time, all throughout the last 14 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about, like, just real quick, and then we'll go on to when you came to fellowship. I remember, I don't think I actually did the announcing, but I was up there and standing up front. I think Brian Lula actually shared about our pastor had an affair.
Yeah.
What actually was the conversation that you guys had around that? Like, I mean, obviously you said it's devastating, which is the word that I would use. Like, listening to a group of people, adults, hear that their pastor had an affair and listening to weeping, was so intense. And as a 24-year-old and 19-year-old or 20-year-old, like, how does that affect you? Because you're driving an hour plus away to church, and this guy essentially brought you on and loved on. I mean, he was kind of a spiritual father to me.
Oh, yeah.
And Pam obviously still is kind of like a spiritual mother to me, amazing lady.
Yep.
Like how does that affect you?
Well, I mean, it gave us an opportunity to think, oh, this is all this Christianity stuff. It's just a little crap. It's a bunch of people.
Really?
Yeah. This is me.
You
This
personally?
is me,
Yeah.
personally. It gave me that opportunity of like, I could just bail on this.
Yeah.
I know some people, it pulled bad things out of them in terms of like being judgmental. This deep hurt because you felt like someone betrayed you.
Yeah.
Here you are, you're giving this trust to this person to be in this position of authority and influence in your life, spiritual authority, spiritual influence, practical life influence as a man into a young man's life.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you realize, wow, I've heard of this happening, but this is at home.
This is here.
Yeah.
This is not theory. This is not somebody's friend had this happen.
Yeah.
This is you and me.
Yeah, yeah. And so it was like heartbreaking. It was maddening, meaning like, and I don't mean like it made me crazy, but it just made me really mad. Like, how could you do this? And then it's almost like you're going through the different levels of grief, right? You're in denial. I really wasn't, because it came out, right? Like
right.
that it was happening. But yeah, I mean, all I remember the students talking about was just kind of like, I can't believe he would go and do something like this. Why would he do that to his wife? What's going to happen at the church now? You had people who were like, I'm never going back there. It's a bunch of phonies. I think this is where I'm really grateful that for the short time that I had been a Christian at that point, probably for like 4 years maybe, the foundation that I had built wasn't on a certain person or personality.
Yeah, yeah.
I was very fortunate that God put me in a church that built me on the foundation of God's Word. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
That people that I see struggle with certain aspects of their faith, I struggle with that too, but I find the difference is I don't have to search far away from my faith and dissect it, or what's the word?
Deconstruct it.
Deconstruct it in order to find myself back in faith. And I don't know if that's good, bad, whatever it is. I will tell you, it doesn't hurt to have a really solid foundation like that.
Yeah.
Especially when you go through things like that. I think for some people, some people left school, some people left pursuing ministry as a result of it. Then there's the people in the church who are like, I'm out of here. And did they ever go anywhere else?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
I mean, a lot of them left. A lot of them. There's a whole story about Lonnie, right? Being completely the opposite of Jim. And the next guy came in, and he was kind of there's a couple ways to change. You turn the ship slow, or you destroy the ship and rebuild it.
Yep.
And he was kind of that way.
Yeah.
He was going to destroy the ship and rebuild it.
Yeah.
But you kept going to church, and you kept
Yeah.
serving in ministry, and,
Yep.
and that was super important to you.
Yeah, it was.
Which I think is like pretty amazing. That must be, well, obviously, it's a deeply held conviction
Yeah.
to you and Erica.
Yeah, absolutely. I know for me, so I didn't grow up in the church. So when I say in the church, I mean in an evangelical, Bible-believing type church. I grew up Catholic, but even in that, it wasn't I grew up staunchly Catholic. I grew up going on a holiday here and there, going to Sunday school or catechism because my mom felt like, oh crap, I'm failing as a parent. I need to get some religion into my children. So I didn't grow up in church, but very quickly when I had become a Christian, there was this seriousness about it of like, I knew what I had been saved from, who I had been. And again, like I wasn't a murderer and, I didn't have like 18 wives and, I wasn't a drug dealer.
Not yet.
Not yet. But I knew the type of person I was and what God saved me from. And I was very grateful for that. And I don't want to say like it compelled me to be faithful to God. I guess that is the right way to say it. It compelled me of like, wow, the least I can do is be faithful to God as a result of what he's done for me.
Wow.
And then add on top of that, I also have a very strong mother who, it was like, before I had become a Christian. Even,
Carolyn.
Carolyn Dancy.
Carolyn Dancy.
She had told me, she's like, well, listen, you're either going to come to youth group or you're grounded. What did I do?
Come on, Carolyn, bring it.
You probably did something. I don't know. But I mean, literally, she would make me go, and I hated it.
Yeah.
I hated it.
At first.
At first, yeah. It was probably a good 2 months before someone actually really talked to me.
Wow.
Here I am, long hair skater kid from the city.
Yeah.
I didn't even live like in the city.
Right.
I lived in the suburbs of Springfield, which is in the city, but it's not downtown. It's a much
maybe similar to Burncoat?
Yes, similar where I live now. Actually. Yeah, very similar. But where we went to church was outside of the city. It's in East Long Meadow, which is a little more affluent. So those people, I think, they all knew each other. I'm the new guy.
Maybe they even went to Christian school together. They had their little culture they built.
Yes, they did. And I don't know if it's that they looked down on me, if it was because I was weird and dressed different than they did. I don't know what it was, but one of the guys who to this day is one of my best friends, Scott Thomas, he was the first person there to actually include me and bring me in, which is funny because he kind of was like somewhat of an outsider too. Just he didn't grow up in a Christian home either. Like a lot of these other kids did.
Yeah.
But I learned very quickly when I became a Christian. This is to get back to your point of like, wow, it's kind of amazing to see someone remain faithful even in the midst of these things and serve God so vehemently and attend church consistently.
Wow.
That's because it was, I don't want to say drilled into me, but the seriousness of walking with God, it really hit home. And Erica grew up the same way, where she realized how important it was to walk regularly with God. And as you encounter who Jesus is, you can't help but realize, wow, I'm called to serve too, right? Like if I'm going to say I'm a Christian, a follower of Jesus, a little Christ, I want to represent him. I want to reflect him.
Yeah.
How do I do that? Well, he was a servant, so we're going to serve. And that's actually one of the biggest, not foundations, but things that Eric and I had in common, like right off the bat, was this concept of, well, yeah, duh, I'm a Christian. Of course I'm supposed to serve. Of course I'm supposed to be at church regularly and with other Christians regularly, because that's Christians are
what
supposed
Christians
to do.
They're in
You know,
community. Yeah.
Yes, they're in community together.
In
Absolutely.
community, serving, loving,
Yeah.
giving,
Right.
participating in.
Why would I want to do it? Why wouldn't I want? Why would I do it alone? No, I want to be with. I need to be with other people.
Yeah.
Pulling in the same direction. Yeah.
Wow. All right. So then we move on to where I ask you guys to come to Bullard Street, right, and here in Holden, in the fellowship, and we were there together, 2007, for 8 years.
Yeah.
Right? And give me a good memory of fellowship. Any good memory. There's so many to choose from. Those were 8 great years.
I remember one time, and I don't know if this is a great memory. It's just a funny memory to me. I had on a T-shirt that was AC/DC.
Okay.
Just was a T-shirt. Wasn't trying to make a statement. I wasn't trying to be like.
Were you leading worship or were you just hanging out? Okay.
I was.
All right.
And whatever, right? Like.
We weren't around, so we don't know.
Yeah.
we don't know what they were about.
I knew what they were about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I knew what they were about. But someone called me out, and I was like,
Really? I don't remember this.
"Oh yeah." It was a person that ran the soundboard,
Okay.
and they said, "Dude, really? You're gonna wear that T-shirt?" And I was like, "What's wrong? It's just it's a T-shirt."
Do I know this person?
Yes, you do. And I said, I'm not trying to make a statement by it. Oh, well, you just automatically are. I was like, okay, well, where was your T-shirt made? What's the tag say? You're okay with child slavery?
Oh, no, you went to child slavery.
And yeah, I stopped wearing that T-shirt after that. But
Interesting, yeah.
it's a maybe
It's a
not
memory.
a great memory, but it's a fun memory. I remember we were doing yard work, and it was the first time I had ever used a chainsaw.
Oh, man.
And I didn't tell
Come
anybody
on,
that I
man.
had never used a chainsaw before, because of course, like,
You just used it.
you want to be
A man's man.
a man's man.
Rah, rah,
Because
rah.
you had like, I can't remember his name. They live out in Ocam, and his wife's a cop.
Scott.
Scott. Okay. He was there, and he was a kind of a
Scott Herzig.
Herzig.
He was a man's
He was
man.
a man's man.
Yeah, he is.
And I wanted to impress him.
Yeah, good
And
call.
I think Corey Buzzle may have been there, or maybe I'm just remembering this wrong.
He was a man's man.
And so, for whatever reason, they couldn't get the chainsaw started. I was like, oh, no, guys, I got this, no problem. Got the chainsaw going. And so I'm like, oh, I'm going to cut down this tree. Because this was a tree they wanted to cut down for some reason. So I did.
Oh, man.
And they're like, all right, Al, it's going to come down. I'm like, all right, let me get out of the way. And I'm not kidding you. This tree starts coming like right to my head. And Scott Herzig just went, like, just put his arm out and pushed the tree, and it didn't land on me.
Wow.
It was one of the coolest.
That sounds pretty
memories.
cool.
I also remember the Fisher Cats when we used to live in the
Yeah, the building.
apartment, the Fisher Cats fighting with the skunks right underneath the floor.
Yeah.
And you could feel the scratching right.
Oh,
Or the
man.
skunk that was in the closet, the utility closet,
Yep.
that had died in there.
Oh,
and
yeah.
had been left in there.
Yeah.
And someone, well, not you or me,
I remember. Oh, yeah.
someone else,
Yeah.
Darren Bell, was supposed to take it out of there, and we found it.
We found it. He had left it in
like
there.
2 years later. Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it was just like the skin and the bone. Oh yeah, it was nasty.
It was nothing. Wow. So we were there. That was an amazing time period. And then
Yeah.
we moved to moving as a part of Next Level.
Yes.
Right? And so there were some good times there.
There were great
There were
times.
great times.
Yeah,
Give me a great memory at, so that's one thing I can always say about you. Whether or not I was right at times or wrong, and I go back and forth at times, like, should I have done this? Should I have
Yeah.
done that? You know, I don't know. I'm pretty happy where I am now. But
Me too.
Um,
yeah, absolutely.
like,
You can't live. You can't live in the what if or should I have.
Yeah.
You can't live there,
You
right?
c-
Like
right.
It doesn't. You can't change it.
yep,
You can learn from it, grow from it,
yeah,
but you don't want to live there. You know?
right. And that's so important.
Yeah.
I think that was the first time at the end of that, and we'll get to this in a second, but it was the first time that I really felt I had screwed up. Now, I probably screwed up a lot. So I don't really live in my head. But for maybe for the second time, I lived in my head, and it was not good. And just that idea of not staying where you screwed up, I probably needed it. I needed to fail.
I'm telling you, you know me. I'm one of those faithfully committed to a fault, or however you say that. Right?
Yeah.
Like I'm committed to a fault where like I'm voraciously not committed, but kind of person where you're like, you're my boy, I got your back.
Yeah.
Come hell or high water, I'm with you.
Ride or die. Sort of thing.
Yeah. And I know we're kind of like, we're jumping into the NLC thing.
Yeah.
That was the first time for me to really ever almost quit something.
Yeah.
That was hard.
So tell me something great about that time period.
Okay. Something great.
So this is next level. We're talking about next level church.
Next level church.
And we were apart. We had merged, being apart here, and it was here in Holden, right? We met at Mount View Christian School, Mount View Middle School.
Middle school. Yep.
2015, we started there.
Yep. Okay.
In May.
Yep.
And
we were still at the movie theater.
Yep. And the real launch was in September.
Yep.
And give me a great memory.
I know you're going to disagree with me, but the Easter egg, helicopter egg drop.
Oh, no, I don't disagree with you at all. That first one
was incredible.
2016.
Although the second one I thought was awesome too.
And did we do that over there?
I think
Or did we do two in St. Peter Marion?
We did two at St. Peter Marion, and then the third one we did at over by Showcase.
Okay.
At Chester and Porter.
All right, so let's talk about like.
But I thought that was one of the best.
So
times ever.
We essentially did an Easter egg hunt. We put the word out by the masses.
Yep.
And what did you love about that experience?
I loved seeing so many people all together, having a good time, and knowing that, not like in the background, because we were very open about it, right? We're sharing the gospel, we're talking about Jesus, we're celebrating Easter. It was like a big party, and it all came down to this event afterward.
Yeah,
it was crazy. The work that it took to pull it off was insane.
Yeah,
but seeing, what was it? One year we had 800 kids.
Yeah,
something like that. It was a ridiculous amount of kids.
Yeah,
literally hundreds of kids come and have a great time doing something fun with their families. That just was so cool. And knowing that, great, I had an opportunity to be a part of sharing the gospel with them too, and letting them know about how much, like, we're a church that loves our community.
Yeah.
We are a church that loves Jesus, and we want to share that with you.
Yeah.
Because if there's anything that is clear, is that we love community.
Yes, that is clear.
Like being with people, being just, even if it's just the two of us, like hanging out,
chilling
out, is
enjoying this time.
Like, this is just fun,
right?
And I know there's a purpose to what we're doing, but even when we're just sitting and just chilling out with no purpose, it's fantastic. It jacks me up.
Yeah.
So to see all of that community going on, it was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
And that I think the first one was like 700, 800, 700 to 800. And the next one was 1,000, and it was like crazy.
Yeah.
And
the third one, if you remember, we had to have 3 different services.
Yeah, it was 1,100. It was a little over 1,100.
Yeah, and it was crazy.
I think we had 4.
Crazy. We may have.
I think we had 4 because I think anyway.
We had Saturday.
Because we had Saturday. So it was like completely off. I don't disagree with you. I remember, some of the greatest people we know in our lives, even now, we know because of that. The Matthias, Tony, and Liz. Alba.
Kevin Dorita.
Sherry. Oh, man.
All of them. Shane.
Shane?
No, 'cause he came
No, he
before.
came from
That's
Fellowship.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right. I
As,
forgot.
but some really, really good, solid
'Cause he was
people.
friends with Pedro.
He was friends with Pedro.
That's right.
Who was
I forgot all
another,
about that.
and
Yeah.
Pedro was around back in '98
Right.
too, right? So we, yeah, so that's a great memory. I mean,
Yeah.
just to be a part of that was really amazing.
It was honestly, there was a lot of that time that was really special.
Yeah,
You know, knowing that we were part of something that was trying to make a move, like create a movement for the kingdom of God, for the gospel, that was incredible. And there was momentum, and there was energy and excitement. And so when you have that, of course, and you're intimately involved in it, it's an incredible feeling.
Okay, so then we get to Christmas and early 2019, right?
Yep.
And you're going to stick around. I have been asked to leave Next Level, and you're going to stick around.
Yep.
And then in some way, and please correct me if I'm being too dramatic here, but you have another. What's the word we just used when we were talking about 2001? Starts with a D.
Not disappointment.
Not disappointment, but it's something like it. Like another experience like that.
Yeah.
Except it's not a pastor having an affair.
Yeah. I can't think of the word now. Either. Hold on, wait. Not like a smack in the face, but yeah, kind of like a disappointment's not even strong enough word.
Right.
Yeah.
So what happened? Devastating.
Devastating. So you essentially are fired.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I guess that's what
and I'm
happened.
not saying that to like bust,
Yeah.
but to put it out there of like the reality is it was not fair. It wasn't something that was justified. They had every right to do it in terms of like they weren't doing something illegal or wrong.
Correct.
It just wasn't in good taste.
Yeah,
And
I would say that's true.
in justifiable. Yeah. Anyways. Yeah. So that happens. I know that's coming up, and that's not when I say it's okay. I was never, like I said, Erica and I were never committed to a man or a woman or a personality. We're committed to serving God. Wherever that would be that God takes us, that could be California, that could be Greece, Africa, we don't care, right? The idea is this, we're gonna faithfully serve God wherever He tells us to be, and we're gonna stay where God tells us to be until He makes it abundantly clear that it's time for us to move on. For instance, when we left Springfield to come here, God made it abundantly clear to us. There was a ministry we had been running the college and career ministry at our church for a couple of years. It had been shut down, and we were told that, you know what, it's not growing the way that we hoped that it would grow. We're just going to shut it down, and maybe we'll start it back up another time.
Okay.
And literally weeks after you talked to us, it gets
Wow.
restarted
Okay.
and given to someone else.
Okay.
Someone else who hadn't been at the church as long.
Yeah.
Someone who's not even a Christian as long. And it was one of those things of like, is this politics? Is this a time where we're just supposed to say, okay, God, we're going to submit to authority, even though this is really uncomfortable? You know, this is the pastor who I grew up with my whole life, love to this day. I think so highly of him. I have no ill will or anything.
Was it part of your ordination?
Was part of my ordination. Absolutely. To this day, like I look at it as a spiritual father in my life.
Yeah.
But he's the one who gave it. So it was like, okay, Lord, we're going to submit to the authorities that you've placed in our lives until you make it clear that it's time for us to move. Difficulties with my family. We have a new baby. My mom, two new babies at that point. A 2-year-old and a little baby.
Wyatt and Liam.
Wyatt and Liam.
Yeah.
And things are going crazy with my family, and we're like, all right, God, are you trying to tell us something here? Like, is this what's supposed to happen? And so the way that mirrors what was happening at Fellowship was this. Or Fellowship, at NLC,
Next level, yeah.
Next Level was, we were going to remain faithful to where God called us to be, told us to be, until he made it abundantly clear that it was time for us to move on. And that meant we were going to stay there without you.
Yeah.
Which was really hard, because at that point, we had been serving, not including the 2 or 3 years in 99 and 2000,
Yeah.
but from 2007 till 2009, 12 years.
Yeah. 2019.
Right?
Yeah,
19. At that point, it had been 12 years
Yeah.
together. That's a lot.
It's a long time.
We're like brothers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So all of a sudden, there's these questions in my mind of like, all right, well, if they're willing to do this and behave this way, are they being unfair and not above board or a little bit sketchy in other things? And we had talked about finances, them not doing what they were supposed to do to pay you.
Yeah.
Again, we're friends. We share every aspect of our lives.
Yeah.
We're sharing and talking about. And so I began asking questions of them of like, hey, why is this happening this way? I look at, well, when we were Fellowship and we agreed to become Next Level Church, there were things that our church board, which I wasn't a part of, it was an agreement that Next Level Church made with Fellowship Church.
Correct.
That said, hey, we're going to do these things in order to, this is the agreement we're going to make, and we're going to make a concession to do these 3 things.
Right.
One was, a blessing that they were going to give to you and Carrie.
Yep.
Another was to allow us as a location to run the Holden Road Race.
Yep.
Hands off.
Hands off.
We would run it.
Correct.
It would be ours, which didn't happen. There were questions about, finances with the Holden Road Race when Next Level Church took things over.
Yeah.
Again, this is not to say that they did or didn't do things, but it brought up questions in my mind.
Yeah.
And that's really important. That was really important to me. It was like, okay, they're doing, according to me, what I'm understanding and experiencing, they're doing my friend dirty. They don't seem to have a lot of integrity, but I want to stay here until God tells me to move, and I want to respect their authority. So what should I do with this? Okay, well, what grown-ups do. You ask questions and you talk.
Yeah.
And you have conversations and you try to work through things. And basically what ended up happening was it was abundantly clear that there was not going to be transparency, that there was going to be this continual protecting each other's backs on the leadership team of Next Level Church. Eric and I had to make a really tough choice. Basically what happened was someone bold-faced lied to us about fulfilling one of the original agreements. The original agreement with Fellowship, and it was a huge deal. It was the mission support for the village in Guatemala that we were supporting.
Correct.
That none of the money that they were supposed to be sending every month, ever, got sent.
Yeah.
And it was like the nail in the coffin. Like, okay, I'm confronting you on this thing. I'm asking you about it. I want you to tell me. And honestly, Erica and I had even said, if they're able to come forward and say, hey, look, we dropped the ball on this. We didn't do it on purpose.
Which seems like a perfectly rational thing to do.
Yeah. Like, hey, listen, I know that we said we would do this thing. We never did.
Yeah.
Here's why. And you know what? Yeah, you know what? We weren't forthcoming with it. And so lied about it. You know what? If we claim to walk with Jesus and mirror him, there's this thing called grace and forgiveness, right? Like, I want to extend it. I wanted to stay there.
But one of the things I've learned in my
Yeah.
life, that if you can't give grace, you also can't fathom the idea of receiving grace.
Yeah.
And
That's a good point.
And they had built that culture of not, and really it wasn't the whole time. It started like literally in 2017. Things were flying.
Oh, yeah.
And they came back and they decided, or one of them, the pastor, decided they were going to, no pun intended, to the next level. and they completely changed.
And the next level is going to be this.
Yeah, and
which was completely different than, not different, but the focus was different.
Community was totally out.
Yeah.
And efficiency
Yeah.
and systemized focus was.
One of the things I think that the point that you just made about if you don't have a not community, but a culture of grace,
Yeah.
you can't fathom receiving it.
Yeah.
That someone else will give you grace. If you're not gracious,
Yeah.
why would anyone want to be gracious to me? There's two extremes to that, of course, right? Is those of the people that are like us who are super gracious, and we are to a fault.
To a fault,
right?
probably, yes.
And then you have people who are totally not gracious or merciful or whatever you want to call it to a fault.
Yeah.
Where the system is what's important. And for us, it can be, well, the community is what's important.
Yeah.
And there's this middle ground that gets missed, which is community is important, systems are important, and we have to marry the two because in the end, like following what Jesus says is important. If my community is going off the rails and doing things that are contrary to what the Bible says.
That's good.
I mean, I'm not talking about like, should we have computers in the church or drums? I'm saying like legitimate things.
Real things you have conversations
Hey, you know what?
about.
Everybody in the church, cheat on your spouse. Totally cool with it. We're not really cool with it. But like, you can't give grace, too much grace to that.
Yeah.
You give grace when someone is like, yeah, you know what? I see the error in that way, and I'm coming back to I want to come back and let's work this out.
Yeah.
And then you've got that other extreme too. Like I said, that if your systems are the most important thing, and maintaining your specific vision is the most important thing, it can bring a lot of trouble. It can bring a lot of heartache for people. So we decided, you know what? If the upper echelon, the top leaders are not going to be ethical and they're not going to be men of integrity, who are going to, admit fault, how can we put ourselves under the authority of those people? You know what? We're going to need to move on.
and so you missed a detail. And so so I was kind of working it from different places. So this particular day, I was working at First Congregational Church, John Barber's church, and I was writing my novel.
Yep.
I don't remember where I was at, but I was in the library, and I get a call from the executive pastor, Roman, saying, I need you to take yourself off the Facebook group of Next Level. Worcester. And I was like, I'm not on it. I already took myself off. He's like, okay, bye. And he hung up.
Yeah, I remember.
And apparently he did the same thing with Chris LaJeunesse.
Right.
And they couldn't get a hold of you.
Right, because I was in New York.
So earlier that day.
Away for the weekend in New York and just hanging out with family.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know that.
We're at Erica's sister's house. We were all hanging out there, just.
And Colleen DePina, who was another person we met during the Next Level, Colleen wrote something very beautiful to me, or to the church, on that Facebook page, and said something like, this is a hard thing but I think we can rise above it. I think it's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. This is the same morning that you found out that one of them lied to you. The same morning, which is really bad timing or good timing, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah.
And Colleen said, it's going to be hard, but we can do it. We can do it as a church together.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's going to be awesome. And like 40, 50, like it was a long list of people.
Oh, yeah. There was a ton of people.
People
just
saying,
you're so right. This is really hard, and I'm going to miss Marty, and I don't understand.
Yeah.
Kind of like not vomiting out bad stuff, but working through it together. Because you'd have someone who would say, I think it's ridiculous, and then you'd have someone the next comment after saying, you know what, so-and-so, I feel that same way, but we know God's got this under control. We know He has purposes for all of this. It was like they were doing what a family should do
to work
through a
out the hard
crisis.
times, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And in any dysfunctional group,
Yep.
they don't want you to work out the stuff.
No,
It
they
can,
want to control.
it can be
control
very
it.
difficult because
Yeah.
you want to pretend that there's no problem, which
Yeah.
is like a media thing to do, not necessarily a church thing to do. Because if your thing is it's okay to not be okay,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you're like, no, you can't do that, then what's true?
Right.
If one of your core values is not being
It's
looked
okay to
at.
not be okay until you're not okay with what they're doing.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? And that's like wordsmith. I don't mean it that way, like be all clever. But it's true. Like when you have an organization that cares more about controlling the narrative and controlling the access to information and controlling what people see or think or hear, they're always going to want to have control, and they're not going to want to let other people have a voice in the conversation. That's what happened.
So that's what happened, right? They stepped in.
Yeah.
And they shut off all comment. Well, first of all, they're like, we're not going to talk about this anymore.
About this anymore.
Right.
How dare you guys talk about this? You need to give the respect and honor to this new pastor who's coming in that you don't even know. They didn't say that you don't even know. Okay, we're supposed to give respect and honor to somebody that we don't even know yet.
Yeah.
We haven't even dealt with our own emotions of all of this difficulty. You're telling us that our family is breaking up, there's a divorce happening, and you're coming in as leaders that we don't even know. As this church, we barely know you. You don't spend any time with us. So you're coming in, though, and you expect us to just tuck tail, bow down, and agree to you to say, oh, I'm so sorry, so-and-so, that we dared talk about this on a Facebook page that was set up for us to build community and talk to each other.
And it's literally, I don't know if you know this, like a month before, we were used as an example of how great the Facebook page was. And yeah, because it got real conversation going. And it's difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in groups that I don't talk much, or people don't talk much, and we even had groups that we were part of after that we couldn't really make it.
It never compared.
Didn't compare. There was like this thing that was good. And so what did you do? You're sitting in New York, and what did you do?
So I'm seeing this person berate people that I care about, people that I feel that I look at as family.
Yeah.
Someone who's supposed to be a leader, and in my mind, a leader is someone who cares and guides, and this person did not have that ability.
No.
Or they at least, no one ever helped them develop it at all. Or told them, hey, this is expected of you as a leader in this church.
Yeah.
They just basically came at it as I'm in charge, you're going to listen to what I say, we're not talking about this, and they shut off all the comments.
Wow.
I was pissed.
Yeah.
Sorry if that's not an okay word, but
I think it's fine.
okay. And I'll give you, I was ripping that someone would come on there and say to people that I love and care about who are going through a really traumatic time, right? Like they've just, that weekend, literally just heard, hey, this pastor that some of you, this is the only pastor you've ever known in the last couple of years. You just became Christians and you've never known anyone else. Hey, by the way, he's stepping out of here and going somewhere else with his family. Where that is, we don't know and we can't tell you, but he's not going to be here. Yeah, they want to resolve things. And so here I am with this love and care for these people, thinking, why would someone step in and just trample all over them and tell them, you better just do what I say, stop this. So anyways, what I did was I hijacked the Facebook page because I was an administrator on the page.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, let me go back. The person doling out all the chastisements was the same person who lied to me.
Right.
I already knew for days the truth about the situation, which was They had committed to sending a monthly payment to this mission organization to support a village in Guatemala for us. For the last 4 years, they had never sent $1 to that village. It was probably about $4,000 or something like that. I don't know. What was it? Was it $1,000 a month? It was $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
$1,000 a month. I was thinking $100 a month. That's $12,000 a year.
Yep.
4 years. That's $48,000 that this village in a third world country was not receiving.
Yeah.
I knew that. I had asked the question. And when they got back to me, they said, oh, well, no, you're misinformed. We told Marty, my best friend, who isn't lying to me, we already told him that we weren't doing that.
Like a year later,
Yeah, right.
a year after.
Yeah. And mind you, it didn't matter. In my mind, it was like, yeah, but you made a commitment 4 years ago when we merged with you that you would do this thing in order to get our money.
Yeah.
We gave you $700,000, and this was one of the things you were supposed to faithfully do.
Yeah.
You know, you in a sense, like you broke a contract. And not only that, okay, you know what? That happens. Organizations change, focuses change, finances change, and maybe you can't afford it somehow.
Yeah.
All you had to say was, hey, you know what? This is what happened. But instead, the blame was placed on you. And I was like, you know what? I hadn't heard back from him yet.
Yep.
And I'm thinking to myself, this guy's got all the time in the world. This is what's going through. He's got all the time in the world to go crap on these people that I care about and can't even respond to me in an email yet to tell me what I already know. Fine. I'm going to hold on to this page because I'm not letting somebody talk down to all these people that I like. So I turned the comments back on. Now, all of a sudden people start, yay, comments are back on. And that's when you got the call of like, hey, you need to remove yourself. I already did. What do you mean?
Yeah.
And I ended up taking the page hostage thinking, you know what? I'm not giving this back until I hear directly from this person. And like I look back and I'm like, wow, that's kind of childish. Like, and
Yeah. Would you have done it again? If
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I say yes because I'm like, you know, I want to be rebellious. I don't know that I would. I think I might have handled it. I probably would have handled it different. Cooler heads prevail. You know, that was there another way that I could have made it known that this crap was going on? Yeah, there probably were other ways. Did I choose the path of least resistance? Well, I don't know. I don't know which is the path of least resistance. Is the path of least resistance not taking the Facebook page hostage? Now, mind you, right? Like, it wasn't a Next Level Church official Facebook page that I took hostage. It was a small.
It was the official Worcester page.
Yeah, it was the official Worcester group page.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even like a page. It was a group. So like it wasn't public. You had to be approved to join it. Nobody could see what was written there.
Yeah. Right.
And again, these are all the things that are going through my mind of like, why are you getting on their case about talking about this stuff? This isn't public. It's not like it's going out to all of the rest of the world. Look how dysfunctional Next Level Church is. They're making us feel bad and we're losing our path. So yeah, I stole the page, the group.
And here's the thing, because eventually they let you go. They fired you. They fired me. Basically, I mean.
They didn't just fire me. They threatened to sue me.
Yep.
Because what I was doing was stealing their intellectual property.
Yep.
Okay.
And then they told others that an angry, fired staff member did it, which was not true, which was again a lie.
It wasn't right, and that's the thing that I noticed leading up to this and beyond it was there's a lot of manipulation, and I don't just mean manipulating people, but manipulating the truth, like putting a lot of spin on stuff. Making something seem like it's better or worse than it really is, all to point people back to you, your product, to your thing that you're doing, your brand. Yeah. So, you know, here they are, they're threatening to sue me. They're telling me that I'm in outright blatant sin against the church and the leadership of them.
Yeah.
And that, I shouldn't plan to come to church that next Sunday, which was your last Sunday.
Right.
And would I do this again? Hands down, I would absolutely do what I'm about to say again. I showed up there.
Yeah.
Absolutely would have showed up there. I'm not going to miss your final day as the pastor at that church because some numbnuts is like, oh, you shouldn't plan on being there. You're a sinful person. Man. Is it okay to not be okay?
Yeah.
I mean, right? Like, practice what you preach. If you're preaching that it's okay to not be okay, even at that point, honestly, I would have worked through things with them, but there was no working through. It was you either see things our way or you can see yourself out.
Let me give an example of this because Carrie, through this process, was really struggling because she saw at times, like she saw right? It's not like we were any more or any less numbers-wise in terms of like the other locations. Like
percentage of growth of attendees,
yes.
volunteers, finances.
We were just as all the other locations.
Yeah.
But Carrie did see that at times I was not as organized as maybe some people would want, right?
Yep.
So she had a list of things, some of them you've already talked about, and others that she wanted to go before Josh and Roman, who were the two guys. So they gave us an audience, which later on he said, I don't do that for everybody. Just be thankful.
Right.
Like in that sense, like it's so an honor. It's such an honor that he would meet with us. Give me a break. Anyways, so Carrie sat down and had pages, went over, right?
Yep.
And talked through it and had a fine conversation. Carrie actually felt hopeful that things would change because she wanted to know, what if Marty gets out of ministry? What if he goes and does something else? Do I want to go to church there still? This is a little bit before what you did. What you did.
Yeah, right, yes.
And
this was several weeks before.
Several weeks before.
Yeah, yep.
And now, one of the things that we were always taught was accountability. Like you need to do what you were supposed to do, right?
Yep.
So Carrie is into the same thing. So she texted Roman and said, hey, was wondering how you're doing on these particular things. And his response was, we are, and this is almost a quote. It's a little like I'm not perfect memory, but we are getting better professionally and systematically as much as we can, and we'll continue to strive to do that in the future.
Yeah. It was just a can.
It was like text.
When you send an email to info at
yes.
blah, 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 and they spit you back this form email that says, thank you for sending us your response.
And Carrie looked at that and goes, they're not going to do a thing.
Yeah.
And so that's what would have happened had you, just to give you some encouragement, and had you done it the other way, and I know you said you don't think you'd do it, and maybe it's one of those things, you don't know.
Yeah.
But had you done it the other way, that's what would have happened with that scenario.
With manipulation and sleight of hand in a sense, right? Of like, you know what it reminds me of? And you probably have read about this too. Narcissists, right?
Yeah.
They are so perfect at taking a situation where you're confronting them and somehow twisting it back to you.
Yeah.
Or you confront them with a situation and they make you feel good in the end, and then the next day it's as if you didn't even have the conversation.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? No, I never said that. What I said was, we would think about what you had to say. You've given us some things to think about.
You've given us some things to think about.
I'm sorry you feel that way.
So let me ask you this question. What would you say to somebody who is still going there, who you know? Like we talked about several people who still go there, which is fine. Like, well, is it fine? What would you say to them if you had a one-on-one audience to them and you were talking about church?
I would say,
To those
is
people.
there something wrong with you?
Really?
No.
Okay. I was like,
probably-
I took you for serious.
In a way, I would want to say, this is an abusive relationship. And this was my experience in this abusive relationship. It's only a matter of time before this person treats you the same way.
Let me ask you a question.
That's what I
Is
that's
it
what I
an
wanna say.
abusive relationship to those who are not on staff or heavily involved?
Yes.
Why?
So they're like the kids of a narcissist. Right?
Oh, okay.
So you think of it, the person on staff is married to the organization, to the brand. The other people are the byproduct of it, the kids. I know it sounds like,
No, I
you get what I'm saying though,
Yeah.
right? Like, I don't mean to make it sound, whatever.
the analogy is obviously
The
the
analogy
home.
is the home, right? So here you are, you have this organization, the dad, you've got the person who's the pastor, married to it, husband and wife, and the children are a byproduct of it, the people coming, the people volunteering, the people getting chores, right? They're all always going to be affected by what's going on in the relationship up top. So, yeah, I think with an organization that is abusive, an organization that is manipulative, an organization that lies, yeah, it's hurting those people without them even being aware of it. Now, can an organization change? Of course. I mean, we serve a God who's capable of changing any heart, right? Like anything, anyone. I mean, I am an example of that. God has changed me from the inside out. I am absolutely not the same person I was 27 years ago
Yeah,
when I first became a Christian.
yeah.
You know, I'm not the same person I was 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. God is constantly at work in me, constantly at work in you.
Yeah.
So I'm confident that God can take a situation, a family, right? Like, I am a prime example of this. God took a dysfunctional, screwed up family, my family, the Dancys. Mm-hmm. He did a work in us to completely transform us and change our earthly trajectory
Yeah.
and our eternal
Yeah.
home, right? Like, so he changed my dad, where my dad, puts spiritual things first. He changed my mom, where she works really hard to be submissive to a husband that she doesn't always agree with, or thinks, like his decisions aren't the right way. He's transformed 3 kids who all 3 of us serve God faithfully at different churches.
Yeah.
And we now all have children who we're teaching to love God and serve, right? So I know this.
Yeah.
God is fully capable of changing a church, changing leadership, changing individuals. I also know this. God can protect people who are in a home or in a church that is dysfunctional or abusive. Would I ever recommend that someone stays there and well, I'm just going to stay there and see that God will protect me? Yes, he will. But sometimes you're just staying there because you don't know anything different. It's like you ask someone, why did you stay in that relationship so long? I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't think I deserved anything better. Well, I was tired.
Yeah.
We've had people who have said to us, like, why are you staying there? I don't want to have to do the whole start a whole new church community over again. Go somewhere else. I'm too old for that.
Yeah.
And in some ways, I want to say to them, you're perpetuating this. You, by not standing up against it, you're helping it continue.
I think you say that people can change, and I think that's right. I think the number one the number one sign that scenario has changed is have they accepted responsibility or not? And I mean any responsibility.
Sure.
Like any responsibility
Yeah.
at all. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm sure there's levels of responsibility, and
Yeah.
maybe like just show us at what point do you think you're capable of making a mistake?
Yeah.
And
What do you do though if you have leaders? I think this points to their character if they do this. When they say, "Well, I don't owe you that. I'm not accountable to you."
I think as Christians, we're accountable to each other. Period. I mean, I don't know. It's now.
That's good.
Now,
No, that's
there. I get that. There are people.
Yeah. How dare you speak against God's man?
There are God's people. There are people who come and like from even now that we've changed this worship space, right? There are people who come in who I don't know. They've never been here to church, and they say, "I can't believe you've done this." And I would say that to them, like, I'm not accountable to you. And I think that's true because, and that's the things we're talking about with the leadership at Next Level have nothing to do with the cosmetics of any church or anything.
Nothing.
They have to do with the integrity of saying, there are times I screwed up and lied and stole money and this and that, and did not give money.
Yeah.
There's debate whether that's stealing, right?
Because that could be slander. We don't want to.
No, okay,
slander someone, right?
None about that.
Right. No.
So there are. So, anyways, I think that there are times that you can say that, but just being real is not I don't care how big of a church you are.
Right.
Like, and we probably should land the plane and talk a little bit about. But go ahead.
I just want to tell you one thing. Two things. One, it points to a heart problem.
Correct.
It always does. This is something Eric and I talk about all the time with our own kids. And I have to remember, even with myself, is that most problems that are going on aren't, those are just the symptoms. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like when your children are back-talking you, that's a symptom of something else. And it almost always points back to...
They haven't got whipped enough.
That absolutely. Maybe some hot sauce on the tongue.
Hot sauce on the tongue, yes.
But they... totally kidding. But it's a heart problem, right? It's trying to get to the heart of the problem, right? And so I think if you have leaders, men, women, it doesn't matter who, right, that don't have a soft, humble heart, it's going to be a whole lot more difficult for them to change.
Okay. So let me ask you a question that's going to deviate from this. I have noticed in the last couple years.
That I got fatter.
That too.
Yeah, it's true.
I have noticed that you have become, in my opinion, more visibly conservative in almost every way.
Interesting. Really?
Yes.
Good.
Politically.
Finally got.
Maybe even
doing things
spiritually.
Right.
Oh my word.
Just kidding.
Let me ask you about that.
Okay.
And tell me if I'm right.
Okay.
And tell me what your logic and mindset is in that scenario.
I don't know that I have gotten more conservative or that I have, there's been a revolution, right? Like I've come back around to where I was. So I'm thinking back fellowship days, right?
Okay.
First coming to fellowship, 2007. I was very conservative.
Yep.
But there was this piece of me that wasn't fully, indie fundy. For people who don't know what that is, independent fundamental Baptist.
Fundamentalist, yeah.
I wasn't a fundamentalist, but I went to a college that was fundamental. I was learning from people who were fundamentalists. I was learning politics from people who were fundamentalists, and yet I also had a foundation as a kid that was very liberal, right? Like,
yeah.
So I had this mix of things. I had these Baptist roots that were being grown in me, but I also had friends who were charismatic, so I had some roots of that as well. So there was a lot of this, trying to find my way and like really understand who I was. So yes, I do agree with you. I think in the last couple of years, I have definitely become more conservative in every aspect of my life. But I don't know that it's that I wasn't that way like at my core.
Okay.
I think I was exploring for several years, for probably like 10 years.
Yeah.
Exploring this idea of, well, which is the not better, but which is the and not even safer. I don't really know how to say it. What is the way that most aligns with my my worldview?
Okay.
That's really what it comes back to, is like, okay, what is my worldview dictated by? Well, my worldview is dictated by what God's word says.
Okay.
That's really hard to do, though, when you live in for instance, living in the United States, right?
Yeah.
Where we're super materialistic.
Yeah.
That doesn't jive with what the Bible says.
Correct.
There's all kinds of things. Being profane.
Yeah.
That doesn't jive. So politically, right? How can I support someone who is a serial cheater, says horrible, hurtful, mean things to people?
Yeah.
I don't know. Those are some things, honestly. Even though I would say, yeah, I'm definitely more conservative. Those are things that I haven't resolved
struggle
yet.
with.
That I struggle
Well,
with.
I don't know that
Yeah.
there's really I don't know that there's a way to resolve that totally in politics, right? Like,
Nah. Yeah.
that could be very difficult. And I know, and I bring it up because obviously, like, Ryan has been here and sat in that
Yeah.
chair for
Yeah.
several times, and he would be the complete opposite of you, right?
and I are very opposite.
Very
Yeah.
opposite. But we all get along really well. I think
Yeah.
that's an important
Yeah.
thing. And I just wondered, in that sense, even some of the things that you post online, like on Facebook, right? You're definitely putting more. Besides some of your side hustles,
Yep.
And front hustles,
Right.
You're definitely putting more out there. Jesus is my Lord and Savior, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And being very open about your faith.
Yeah.
And of course, I have no issue with that, right? But what I guess I'm trying to figure out, like, what is the spearhead behind that, and what are you going for in your life and with your faith? Yeah, because you have such. Obviously, this has been the theme throughout what we've talked about.
Yeah.
You have such a passion for the church and God's church and what God is doing in His church.
Yeah.
Even coming here, which we're not even going to get to because of time, but
Yeah.
but like part two, like, but there's been so much passion that you have for the church.
Yeah.
And so I guess I'm assuming that some of that has to do with that passion. And I guess
It does. Yeah. So honestly, like, not to doom and gloom, but time is short.
yeah.
And what I mean by that is maybe morning, maybe noon, maybe evening, or maybe soon, right? Like, Jesus is coming again. And I don't mean that like these are the signs of the times and it's happening right now.
Yeah.
But the reality of the fact that Jesus could come at any moment. I have no idea when that is. I want to be found faithful.
Yeah.
One. Jesus is coming, and I want to know that I take people to heaven by the truckfuls, right?
Okay.
That's
Is it a line?
Soup Tones. Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Super Tone Strike Back.
Yeah, like that perspective of, like, in whatever place I find myself in, I want to know that I left it better than I found it. That it's better as having encountered me, and not because I'm good, but because I've allowed God to work through me to impact other people's lives. I want to know that when I leave this earth, when I leave a church, whatever it is, that I have made an eternal impact on someone's life. It doesn't have to be truckfuls of people. I don't really care about that. It's just this idea that I'm willing to drag people kicking and screaming to Jesus, right? Like, I want to be unashamed. And some of that comes with putting yourself out there in ways that aren't comfortable. Like, what I've posted recently, a lot of the stuff, it's stuff that I wholeheartedly believe in.
Yeah.
Not the flat Earth, but but seriously, you know that I do. I believe that time is short. I have a responsibility to fulfill God's calling in my life, and not because as a pastor or missionary, as a Christian, I have a call on my life like every single other Christian does. I refuse to give that up. I refuse to back down from it, walk away from it. It doesn't matter if I am a burger flipper, if I'm a janitor, if I'm a pastor, or I just work a normal job, or that I'm rich. I want to know that I didn't give up on that call to love people, to share the gospel, and help people see the value, the absolute glory in, not glory, the absolute peace and joy that comes from serving God.
Yeah.
I also see that time is short with my kids.
Yeah.
I have a 16-year-old, almost 17-year-old kid.
Yeah.
In 4 months, he's going to be 17.
Yeah.
I have a small window of time to make an impact in my kids' lives. I want them to see the dad that I was not busy about being in church and busy about doing churchy stuff and Christian stuff, but that the priority of my life, I'll never back away from this. Serving God in every aspect of my life is my priority.
Yeah.
I want them to see that there's such joy, there's such fulfillment in knowing that I have walked faithfully with God. I want them to see that, and I want there to be an impact, and I don't want all the praise and the glory pointed back to me. I just want to know that God used me in whatever capacity He chooses to use me to make an impact.
Yeah.
So I think that's why a lot of it comes back to more conservative things, is because it's a solid foundation. It's held me together through a pastor cheating, ministries being taken away, getting kicked out of a church and fired, through my wife, not undiagnosed anxiety, depression, almost getting fired from my job while that's happening, 4 kids, living in a crappy apartment. What has been constant is this foundation that I can come back to. And so I guess that's kind of why it's conservative, is because it's not about a specific political slant.
Yeah.
It's really all about coming back to a foundation that I know is unmovable, unshakable, the Word of God.
Yeah.
Building on Jesus and His love. I don't know. Is that?
No, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
And so I guess we will have to have a part 2.
Okay.
Because we've been going for about an hour and a half. And I think it's flown. It's flown. You're such a goober. But thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for being my friend.
Yeah, dude.
And
I love you.
It's been a blast of a...
Do we get to flip the table, flip the script, and I get to ask you all this stuff?
Well, you know what? That might be part 2.
That'd be awesome.
Maybe we'll do that part 2.
And then we could even do a part 3 where we talk about this amazing place. Because this is different even than this is different than our foundation.
It is different.
Well, it's different. It's very similar.
Yeah.
But it's still different.
A lot, yes. It's
having a church that votes doesn't mean you're congregational.
Yes.
Like our church is voted.
Right.
But there was a select group of men who made the decisions on everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, thank you. And thank you for checking us out today. Don't forget next week. And don't forget to subscribe and do all that stuff on YouTube.
Hit the notification bell.
Hit the notification bell. Yeah, please
like,
do.
Share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell below.
Peace.